requires the concerted effort of 100 man-hours each day. To those watching at home, the newscast itself may seem relatively simple. That is, unless something goes wrong, which becomes readily apparent to you. If that happens, I normally hear about it pretty quickly. I'm Carl Siskin, news director of the KOGO stations. For the KOGO stations, the news day begins at 6 a.m. when Dick Ebert delivers the first of 37 daily radio newscasts.
This is Dick Ebert, KOGO News. A lakeside officer.
Ebert will not only cover and develop stories that occurred overnight, but pass this information on to the television crew for possible film coverage. Ebert's radio broadcasts keep you abreast of stories that may have broken since your morning newspaper went to press. This is the big difference between broadcast journalism and newspapers. Radio and television news is now. Along with more than 37 local newscasts, KOGO Radio carries NBC News. At this juncture, it might be a good idea to explain how we get our news. For many of you, the most familiar method is the wire service. At KOGO, we subscribe to both United Press International and the Associated Press. We also have a photofax machine that prints black and white pictures of important events as they occur the world over. These machines run 24 hours a day, and for the men clearing the copy, it must seem like a never-ending river. The jet age figures in our news gathering process. Every day, the KOGO bureaus in Washington and Sacramento send us film stories that will be of interest here in San Diego. Almost all of our local news is channeled through assignment editor Jack Moorhead. Each day, Moorhead must go through over 150 press releases asking for coverage of a news event or news conference. Additionally, people call on the phone from the time he comes to work till the time he goes home at night asking for news coverage of their events. These, of course, are only secondary to our primary interest, which is in those stories which are developed here in our own newsroom. Moorhead must sift through this material and judge which stories merit coverage and in which order. The assignment editor's job is probably the toughest in the newsroom.
Unit 48 Porters.
She's going to be called at 10 o'clock. Are you sure? Where'd you get your information? Exactly at 10, she'll go before the grand jury. So she has to be there about 9:30. Let me see if I can get a camera crew there. Hold on just a moment.
Unit 488, that was 5189.
Yeah? Can I get a camera crew at 10 o'clock, County Courthouse?
10 o'clock?
Good story.
We're fairly loaded, Dale. What's the story?
It's a good story.
It's a big one?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll scratch one of these other assignments. But I hope it's big.
We'll be there.
Our 5 KOGO news cars are in constant communication with the assignment desk via two-way radio. Each car has a crew comprised of a cameraman and reporter. During the day, they have specific assignments to cover, but are often diverted to another story by a call on that ubiquitous radio.
Okay. Okay, real good. Thanks for calling. Skidable in 79.
Yeah, this is 30. Go ahead, Jack.
We're going to shift you and Lampert on that story of the town and country and send you over to San Diego State for an interview with the AFG president, Ralph Crown.
Okay, 10-4 on that, Jack. Who's the contact and where exactly are we supposed to go there?
Okay, the interview will take place at Aztec Center. I suggest you go by...
PR office in state, talk to Jim Yannison about some of the other specifics.
Okay, you know where to go on that? Yeah, right. 10-4 on that, Jack. We'll be there in about 15 minutes or so. 27, off and clear, Highway 94.
Okay, Jack, when you're wrapped up there, please get in contact with me. I think I've got another breaking story, or it'll be breaking at that time at the airport around 2:30.
Once at the scene, the cameraman sets up his sound gear while the reporter talks with the subject involved in the story. That camera, by the way, is an Oricon Cinevoice and costs some $5,000. With lights, tripod, microphones, and other accessories, costs mount to nearly twice that amount. When the film is brought back to the KOGO studios, it's taken in for processing. Our Houston Fearless processor delivers color film at the rate of 30 feet per minute, dry to dry. Film is the backbone of any television news operation, and it's expensive. KOGO News uses about 60,000 feet of color film a month at a cost of about 8 cents a foot. Incidentally, the processor itself has a price tag of $15,000. Film provides television news with its impact. It's much more effective, for example, showing someone actually making the statement rather than simply reading about it. By 3 o'clock, the newsroom is operating at its peak. Most of the reporters are back and assembling the various components that go into the stories. After the film is processed, the cameramen and reporters look at the film and decide how to cut it, since the film must be edited to match the script. For example, it's best to talk about elephants when elephants are showing, rather than having giraffes crowd the screen. And speaking of crowding, that editing room can certainly get crowded. Oftentimes, the reporter will record his own story on magnetic audio tape. The responsibility for coordinating the show on the air belongs to director Jim Donahue. Jim checks over the script for his instructions. He marks the copy, indicating which film and slide chains will be used, among a myriad of other details pertaining to each story. Working closely with the director, assignment editor, reporters, and anchorman Rineker is news producer Bob Gray. Gray determines in what order the stories will be run and how long each will be. Because of our very flexible setup, stories are often moved about on the format at the last minute.
Now, this has got a commercial after this story, and we've got some ad information on that 187. It's going to come in here in a minute, so we're going to have to do some swapping around, but with any luck, we should have it out 2 minutes before you go on.
I'll look for it. Good.
If all this wasn't complicated enough, KOGO News has inaugurated a Spanish translation of our early television news and the NBC nightly news. It's simulcast on KOGO FM. This enables Spanish-speaking people in our signal area to watch the video portion of the newscast, that 90-minute news show, on Channel 10, and hear the Spanish audio on KOGO FM, 94.1 on the FM dial. For our local news, the translators are given copies of the script to be used.
Came to Houston to make a political speech. One of the few that he...
Good evening, I'm Carl Siskin. Speaking just then was attorney Barton Sheila.
At this point, I might mention some of the other special features done by KOGO News. Once a week, KOGO News presents Assignment. This is a freewheeling 30 minutes which I moderate. Only reporters are involved. By and large, we discuss subjects of local interest, although often we go afield. Many times we stir up controversy simply because of the nature of the show. We think this kind of thing is healthy, and judging from public response, so does much of our audience. Our Insight programs are aired whenever a subject of significant interest comes up, significant enough that we want to take a much longer time to cover it than the usual 2 to 3 minutes of news coverage otherwise permits us. The visit of Vice President Agnew to San Diego to appear before the Republican fundraising dinner was one such occasion. KOGO News had an exclusive half-hour interview with the Vice President on that occasion. Other special features are the KOGO editorials done by Clayton Brace. Dale Bricks, the editorial director, handles the research and writing. Ed Deverill does our investigative reporting and prepares in-depth stories on subjects ranging from welfare to Old Town. By 5 o'clock, Rineker has his copy of the script and made whatever changes required to fit his style of reading. In the control room, the engineers are making final critical adjustments to the color cameras so Rineker doesn't arrive at your home in living purple. The translators are in the FM studio ready to begin their work. In the director's booth, Donahue waits for 5:30 and then over the headset system calls the floor manager to cue Rineker, and the newscast is on.
Black, up on 8, booth, roll 16.
KOGO-TV, San Diego, next on 10, KOGO News.
Take 16.
Good evening. I'm Sam Rineker. 2 men now have been arrested in connection with an attempt to murder a San Diego police officer this morning. Officer Frank Wilson was wounded twice with his own revolver while investigating a crime in Linda Vista.
El ejército del gobierno y forzado a retirarse 13 millas de Beat. Anoche, la petición del rey Hussein era considerada en las Naciones Unidas. Se cree que la decisión
Translators are watching on their own monitors and start translating the show into Spanish immediately.
mientras las colectivo en vez de una sola persona. Reportes desde Camboya indican que los comunistas pueden intentar retirarse en vista de una posible ofensiva por las tropas del gobierno. Y en Washington, el senador...
That should give you a pretty good idea of what goes into putting on an hour of television news. But remember, along with this 1 hour, we also broadcast local news at 8:25 a.m., a half hour at noon, and another half hour at 11 p.m. It's a big job, 7 days a week. We're constantly up against a deadline, and once in a while, we even make a slip. But I hope after watching this film, you may be better able to understand why. Still, I doubt any of us would have it any other way.
There's a whole lot of talk going down among my people, and the world hangs on every word. I guess people are just trying to be people. That's the way to live, from all I've heard. And all we need is a little more time to get it together. There's a whole lot of people are trying to get it together, like you and me. That's all we need to be free. Just a little more time to get it together. Well, I heard a brother talking today, said he found a direction. He said